actually typed it in. I'm over it.
They should, that would be nice, but they're not on the agenda, so.
That you voted already that anything that was in the book was to be on the list, that when you turned it in, you were ready for it to go and it was an action item to be on the agenda. If that's not,
Language in our ordinance unless it's after 30. The owners all agree they wanted to move forward. They don't want notice if that's the only person being notified.
well, no, we have to notify the people around them as well.
I asked that particularly for our meeting we know.
Okay,
That was the thing to speed that process up.
okay.
So I have to challenge the language if that's.
That said, since they're not on the agenda, we can't really do anything with them today.
No.
I can
So
bring them up at the end.
You can bring them up that they will be on the,
They'll be on- they'll be on
on
the
your
December
next
agenda.
agenda.
so we can put them in for new business for December,
Yes,
which is where we kind of stand.
which is what okay.
So before we go any further, can we call this meeting to order and take a roll call?
Yeah, so, Donna McCool.
Here.
Frank Falcone, Chris Wilson.
Present.
Here, Tiffany DeMayo here, Kathy Cavalier here, Keith Lane, not here.
And is Rosario officially off?
Rosario is officially off, and I thought there was somebody who was appointed.
Well,
I will
person
check.
Bill Baker never got notified for it. His application, in, but he didn't get notified.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be on. I think the board has actually voted on him.
All righty. Why don't we do a moment of silence and pledge allegiance?
The flag, United States of America, the republic, which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Can I make a motion to approve the agenda from last meeting? Oh, no, I'm sorry, to approve the agenda from this meeting.
Make a motion for the agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
All righty. Is there any reason not to approve the minutes from last meeting? What?
I don't believe there's a reason.
All right. All right, what are we looking at here? Just hold that. Okay. Very good. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
I'm wishing to.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So in the new business, we were going to discuss possibility of a homeowner welcome letter and certificate.
I'm actively drafting said letter.
Okay,
I'm having writer's block. I can pass it around and any input anybody would like to give is more than welcome.
do you want to pass it around, or do you want to email it out and have us email
Email
it
in the
back?
Word, in the Word doc, yeah.
We can individually review it over the month and kick it back to you.
This is about how much I have so far.
Okay. Then let's move on to a discussion. What
Does the letter go to people that are approved in the ordinance or people once they purchase the?
No, once they, their application is approved by the board and it's, the zoning and everything has gone through, then we want to give them a letter stating, welcome. And this is what it entails, so that they know up front, and they have something in writing saying that this is what the ordinance requires of you as the homeowner. So if you plan on making any changes, that needs to be brought to our attention. And I think this is where I'm getting writer's block, because I just haven't had time to go through the ordinance again to think of all the things that just so that they are aware of what the ordinance says comes with that class 2 historic resource FBA denotion. Words are failing me today.
Alrighty, then let's move on to discussing the possibility of having the Delaware County Planning Department conduct a new historic resource inventory. You could advise what that would entail, what that would get for us, and I believe you have information on what that would cost.
Right. So I've been in contact with the planning department at Beverly Barnes. And I received a response back of what is necessary. It's basically an inventory similar to the one done in '84, but updated. And there's many more properties
So
on
it
it.
would take off properties that are no longer
There,
viable.
yes,
and it
and there's
would
quite,
add
a few. And add the
new
newer ones,
resources.
but based on criteria. Through the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission. So they have a whole criteria for what they use, which I would get all that information. And to do that would be $6,000, half of which I believe the Historic Society would pay. So I didn't know what our budget is. The second thing is there has to be recognition and acknowledgement from the township and the board of supervisors. So they would have to be on board that
Okay.
once this is done, it's a legitimate historic resource inventory that basically can be placed into the historic ordinance. So there's a lot more involved in doing this, but that would be the goal
Okay,
to do. So this is the beginning of it, and I've had discussions with them. So I think what the part with the township, official township approval, which we acknowledge not only us working for the township, but also that this survey update will be the official one that the township acknowledges.
Okay.
So all those kinds of things have to be done. So it'll be all prepared and presented.
Okay.
And so the question is then to also what our budget is for that. And, as I said, we're going to offset that and probably
okay. Steve,
get
if
donations.
we wanted to further investigate this, who in the township, would we need to talk with to see if the township would be on board with updating our historic resources document from the county level?
Yeah, I think that my recommendation would be that there be a conversation with at least probably like myself and Leonard to get a kind of an understanding, let him do a little bit of checking with the board prior to doing a full presentation before the board, making sure that there's some desire to take that step. So.
Okay, So realistically, what is the next step from the?
Well, I think
from our
there's, I
side?
think there's two things that I'm hearing, and so I just want to make sure I'm hearing correctly. There's a cost that I'm assuming the township's going to need to cover at least half of that cost. Is
Part of
what
it, or if we can do the whole, I mean, we could do the whole thing. And we would probably fundraise for that.
Okay,
But yeah, if we have a budget, I would get approval whether we wanted to use some of our budget. I don't even know how much we get or what we've ever used, but that would be part, could be
Okay.
used. So that's what we
Yeah.
would vote on, even if it's a part, we would take an amount and say, okay, we can put this much of the budget toward that.
okay. And like, when would this be done? Do you know?
They're doing one, which is probably gonna take them spring and summer at Chester Heights. It's smaller township, so probably late summer, it would begin, or fall. So it's gonna be a ways off,
Okay,
because
Yeah,
they are in
so-
the middle of doing another one, so.
yeah, so I think we would need to have, I think initially I want to have a meeting with Leonard and myself,
Mhm.
just make sure that there's agreement to go forward. And then probably a meeting with you, myself, and the people from the county to go through and talk about what
Mhm.
that looks like, what the expectations are. And maybe we even do that first and before we even meet with
Yeah, I
Leonard,
think so, yeah,
and then be clear what the directions are.
because these aren't the same people. It was done by a different group and it was
Okay.
done years ago, so.
So that actually leads me into another topic. Steve, you had brought up at this meeting last Monday that budgets were due,
Yes,
and that is something that we had talked about pushing off a couple of meetings ago, because there was some talk about changing how it was done. So I don't think we've given you anything.
I don't have
Budget-wise.
anything. I've left a little bit in the budget. Just based on kind of knowing the things that you were doing. But I don't have anything specific items.
Has the forms and the presentation changed to what you need, or?
Not significantly. What I will say is I'm actually presenting the budget to the board tonight.
Mhm.
So, I mean, whether or not we can do changes will depend upon how much the change is
Well,
and where we are. So,
then at this point, I guess, if we're gonna figure out what we're working with, I guess I need to know what has been put in.
I
And
I
still
think
don't-
there's, this is off the top of my head, but I think there's $5,000 or $6,000 in the budget. I have to look exactly, but $5,000 or $6,000
okay,
for this group.
did we ever figure out, roughly speaking, what it cost us to advertise and put through a single application?
It's because we've been doing multiple applications at once. It's actually a little bit better price point, but I don't know the exact number.
It just makes it a little hard to budget when I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's
Um,
hard because you pay by the word, and it's not always the same.
Mhm.
If it was always the same, it would be easy.
Yeah, well,
and-
if we had a window, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Keep
Um,
on. Wait a second,
When we advertise,
when you advertise, okay.
yeah, we pay by basically, it's actually, I think it's by the character and they by the line, but it's like, you don't, it's not like, oh, I paid $10 for this ad. I paid $10 based on how long the ad is and what's in it. You know, I mean,
Okay, and then what's the cost after that?
that's the main cost other than the cost of the transcription.
Flat rate for the night?
No,
That's not on the word, I hope, because I'm gonna change my wording if it is.
Will be less.
I give him sheets.
well, but he's taking everything
Yeah,
and creating it. And it's however, it's so much for the night and then so much for him to create the document.
good to know.
I think generally speaking, if we're doing a couple a month, we should be okay,
Yes.
which I figured you would not let us hang in the wind.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask the question because I didn't really know where we stood or what could be done at this point.
Well, I'm working, I'm actually have had another request that I still haven't worked through yet, what exactly it means that is in the same line area as your request. So I just have to work through all that. But from the Historic Society.
We'll not put this off next year.
Okay.
We'll get on top of it. Then let's move to old business, because I think we only have a few more minutes here. Be able to get Steve out comfortably on time. And what we have in old business is discussing where these properties that we discussed and approved moving forward, but never really moved forward, stand. Kathy, you
Refresh,
said-
I didn't know these. I wasn't,
If
they weren't the properties I was assuming, so I can tell you, just refresh me, where's 3523 Goshen and 4109 Goshen? It must be the Spring House and
one of
the
them is the
Haitian
Spring
House.
House and one of them is the Haitian
Haitian?
House, yes.
Okay. 6 North Newtown is the.
That should be the shopkeeper's house, I think.
Shopkeeper's house, okay.
College Avenue, we know which one that is.
And College Avenue was resubmitted, and that's the John Hunter House, and that was by the owner, so that's one of the applications that went in
All right,
today.
so we're gonna redo that one.
Well, you don't really need, doesn't need to be redone, we're just gonna have them,
Meaning we're gonna update it as if it's new and push it forward as if.
yes, you're gonna approve them, and yeah. These were already, 6 North was done, we had our hearing, we met.
Yeah.
Tanglewood was notified, I believe, and no one came that night.
Yeah, and the two others were done. The question with the Spring House was who was notified.
I don't know
but I
if I'm
think-
supposed to go find out.
All right.
It's like, I don't know.
Well, then let's get these 4 written up and pushed forward. I've been jammed at work, so I haven't written them up yet. But if you have, why don't I reach out to you to see if you have the applications that you can send to me?
Oh,
Otherwise,
I have all of them, yeah.
Yeah, if I can get the applications from you, then I can write them up, send them to you. You can look them over and we can
And then where do they go from there?
push them.
They're not all on the same stage, apparently.
I think they're all sitting in limbo. So if we can get them written up in the proper format, I can push them to Heather and we can talk about where they are and if we're able to move forward with them. And if not, then we'll figure out a plan for them.
But we don't even know if,
None of them went to the supervisors. as
no,
far
no,
as-
no. Are we assuming they were all notified? College Avenue was not, and I can tell you that because I visited the people and I have their application. They were
Somebody-
not notified.
We held a hearing for it, so.
I let her know.
Yeah, you walked out and told her, I know, she told me that. So, but she was not, and she didn't need to be because she's the applicant.
She wasn't.
I don't. was
They
she-
were
was
applicant,
she the
that's
applicant the
your
first time?
highlighted statement there,
Yeah.
unless they're the,
If-
not the owner, they have to
If
be
we took
notified.
all 5 of these through our discussion here, in theory, they had to have been notified. So we can confirm that. If they've been notified, if everything's happened, if we can move forward with them, we will. And if we haven't, then we'll figure it out and start over if we need to. But like most of these,
Okay, but
most of these are, from the first year when we were not very,
no, and
Knowledgeable.
some are going to be contentious. I'm not going to go to 6 North Newtown Street Road. You're going to put that back in. We already had the hearing.
we had the hearing.
They don't agree, and so to present that, again, the planning commission will not pass anything that they object to if the owner objects. It's
That's
pointless
not
to
our
present
problem.
that. You're right, it's my problem, because I end up
But
having to
let's get it written up. And
present
let's get
these.
it over to Heather and figure out if we're gonna put it to the supervisors, then let's do it. And if we're not, then let's,
Oh, you can put them through and,
All right.
It's just, what I'm saying is that discussion on this Tanglewood, I'm assuming was notified?
we had a hearing. I don't believe anybody showed up for that one. I'll figure out what months we presented these in so that I can.
And College Avenue is fresh. That's with the 4 that were
Yeah,
done today.
So I think that's what the motion is, to
Springhouse,
write these 4 up and to leave College Avenue for next month. Well,
Springhouse, I have no information on. I have no clue who was notified. We don't know who the owner is.
I will figure out what month we discussed
Mhm.
it.
Nobody knew who the owner was.
We
I think
My
the HOA is
My
the,
understanding is the HOA was notified. I will
So
talk,
let's just put it. to
I'll
them.
talk to Heather and see
That's
if her
fine.
records are.
We'll
correct.
just write them and send them in.
All right. Then then that'll be our plan of action.
Yes.
405 will do with the new application. And the other four will write up and figure out exactly where they stand, what notifications have occurred, when we heard them, and proceed. And with that, why don't we move on? I don't believe we have a public here today, so we don't need to have public comment. I assume we talked about noting for the new business for next month that we're going to bring up the four that you have that'll go on the agenda.
Those applications went in, and they do not need to have a hearing for us. We do not need to hear them. That's what that
So,
clause says.
so we'll put them on our agenda for next month to note that we're moving them forward.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other business that we want to discuss?
why are you saying you don't need to have a hearing?
Unless a property is proposed by the owner, such owner shall be notified upon the proposal. But if the owners are putting them in, they don't need to be notified.
But you still have to have a hearing.
But we do need to put them.
You still have to have an action on it.
I think we have to put them into the record.
We can put them in we can say it
Yeah.
next week,
Yeah,
next
at the
month,
next-
but
at
they
the
can
next
go
week.
out. They don't have to.
Yeah, that's.
It doesn't have to be a 30-day. We can just have them on our meeting next month, even if it's 26 days. Is what I'm saying. The owners have all said that. They don't understand why they're getting letters. The ones who are getting them, who signed them. That they're being notified when they're the ones applying. And I asked, do you send it to other people? No, it's not sent to any neighbor. It's not sent to anyone. So basically, theoretically, when these people put their applications in, these homeowners, it could just go. You could write it up. We discussed
It
it.
still has to be voted on by this.
Yes,
group.
I could have done it tonight, but they weren't listed. And I had them already. And that was
Okay.
my point. I had them all here so we could and that's what I'll do.
Yep.
And that's why I'm picking by owner and I go and visit at each one and have them sign them.
So,
And explain it.
so we'll put those four on the agenda for next month.
Yes.
We'll read them into the record. If by some chance we have the public that wants to discuss them, we'll discuss them. And if not, we'll move them forward to the supervisors after that meeting.
But how you're reading this.
Could you please read it? How do you
So,
read it?
Well, I mean.
I've run it by quite a few people.
As stated here, why can't we just put those into new business and put them in the record now? The sellers-
Because they're not
You
on the
can't
agenda.
amend the agenda on the floor like that.
They have to be on the
They're not
agenda. so
into
they
the
can be
agenda.
posted.
You did get the text that they were my email.
Do they need to be in the agenda because the owners approved them?
It has to be on the agenda, yes, because I have to.
Yeah.
I have to publicize I have to publicize your agenda 24 hours in advance.
Yep.
And that's why I asked them to be put on, just list them so
Okay.
that I could address each one.
So any owner that wants to be added has to be on the agenda.
Correct.
Noted
Yes.
that it's
Yes.
being added.
Say I put in 10 applications next week
Yep.
on the owners.
Okay.
They do it. They will be put into our agenda next time
Gotcha.
and we can vote on all of them.
Okay. It's a plan. Is there any other new business we want to put on the agenda for next month?
We'll have the welcome letter to review officially.
That'll be old business by then, I believe.
We'll just have to put on the
Yep.
agenda.
All right.
Is just, this letter that you're working on is for people who the property has been approved by the board?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, it's just a letter officially telling them that they've been approved and here are your
gotcha.
requirements and expectations as a homeowner.
Okay.
Very good. Is there anything else we want to discuss this evening?
I don't think
Then
we
can
can.
I make a motion that we adjourn?
Can I second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Adjourned.